Okay, I think we're live. Yes. All right. Well, welcome everyone. I am Christina Johnson, founder of the Emerge Weight Loss Program, and I have Margie with me, who is one of the members of the Emerge program. And I am just really excited. I invited Margie on because I feel like her story before we met is one that I think most of you will probably be able to relate to, of kind of going on lots of different diets and losing weight and gaining it back. And as she just told me, she was a little doubtful and skeptical about trying something new, but tried it anyway and has had lots of great successes. And I think that when you jump in and try something different, like creating a healthy, clean, and mindful eating lifestyle, it's hard to know what to expect. And so Margie is here just to share a little bit about how that went for her and how she's been able to lose weight and feel better and just have this healthy lifestyle she feels she can stick with. So, welcome, Margie. Do
Hi,
you want to just briefly introduce yourself? Anything you want to share about who you are?
sure. Yeah, I'm Margie, live in Omaha, Nebraska. Um, Empty nester, um, semi-retired, married to Ken, and I have three children. Our dog Riley, he's a pretty important part of our family.
Of course.
And yeah, I'm just excited to share my story here. So,
Perfect. Well, thank you. Thanks for being
hmm
willing to do this.
hmm
So to get started, do you want to just can you give us a little recap of kind of your diet history, I guess? Just, a brief way. I know
It's
that
like,
this
how long do you have?
just a little, yeah, a synopsis.
Okay. Well, I've pretty much been on a diet of some sort my whole life. Um, and even when I was young and was within that range of where you should weigh, I always thought I needed to be on a diet. So
Yep.
something was going on in my head. Um, but I have tried everything. I've done everything really that you can imagine. And always have success as long as I'm strict and on it.
Mhm.
But then the
Yes.
second that I get off of things, then it's like I just throw the baby out with the bathwater and it's
Yep.
like, I'm done. I guess I can't do it because I failed this one
Yeah.
day or this one meal. And so, and so then I would gain back and then, usually a little more.
Yep.
Um, so it was just a roller coaster. My life has been kind of a roller coaster that way. And I would say, you know, the doubts I would have about myself always revolved around my weight
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
um and not being successful with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes so much sense. So then when you and I met, where were you at that point? Were you on a diet? Were you doing anything?
Well, I wasn't doing anything. I was just I would notice if I went up a little and then I would just not eat a day,
Yeah.
and then try to keep it so that I wouldn't have to buy more clothes or whatever. And
Yeah.
just hadn't been doing anything for a long time.
Yeah.
Because I just kind of part of me I think just kind of gave up. And
Yeah.
um but
Do
yeah,
you know
so
what were any of the thoughts or feelings that caused you to just get to that point of kind of giving up?
um I think just to have to think about it was just depressing. And I've never felt successful, which is
Mhm.
silly, right? Because if you are are working just a little bit on something, you're successful. I think
Yeah.
that's what I've learned through this program. And I wouldn't really call this a diet. The Emerge program, I wouldn't call it a diet. It's very different.
Yeah.
Um, it's not an all or nothing
No.
thing. And so it and I have had to get my head around that, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of an all or nothing person.
Yep.
I
As
jump
many
in with
dieters
both.
are.
Yeah, I jump in with both feet, like with everything I do, kind
Right.
of. And it's just like, I got to get it done. I'm going to do it right.
Yeah.
And so I think just not being able to get that done and do that right was depressing and
Mhm.
hard for
Yeah.
me. And then, so it was just almost easier to ignore it, which is silly, but
Yes.
I
It is,
tried.
but I feel like that's a common defense mechanism for a
Yep.
lot of things in life. It's easier just not to deal with it anymore then. Or you get kind
Yep.
of burned out of trying so hard and dealing with it constantly for so many years that you
Yeah.
just don't want to anymore.
Right. Right.
So, okay, so you had mentioned to me that before you joined Emerge, you were kind of doubtful, hesitant. Do you what was going through your mind then, or yeah, what were some of those doubts or hesitations?
Well, we met not around Emerge, and
Yeah,
I
in
didn't know
real
what
life.
you I didn't know what you did for a living. I didn't know anything about you really. And I just so I found, then I would find out, because we see each other pretty much weekly,
Yeah.
um and I thought, oh, you know, you know, is this like fate that she's in my life,
Yep.
and it's like, oh, I don't want to do another thing, and um because I think I had just reached a point that I would, just like I said, I think I kind of had given up,
Mhm.
that it was going to ever really work out for me to um be the best me I can be physically. And so I had so many, like, oh, I don't want to fail again. I don't want to mess up again. I don't want to I just don't want to lose and then gain it all back again.
Yeah.
So it was like I was scared to even try something else
Yeah.
because I just didn't it's a pride thing too, I think, you
Yes.
know because people are people, and they notice when you lose weight, but they notice when you gain weight. And
Yes.
so I just, I don't know. I think I had just given up. And so I just didn't want to fail at one more thing,
Yep.
you
That makes
know?
perfect sense.
Yeah.
So what actually got you to take the step and decide to do it then?
Well, I have some health issues, and here you are in my life, right? And I thought, okay, I want to feel better. And I
Yeah.
don't know how many times I said that to you, probably 100 times. I'm not doing this to lose the weight. I'm doing this because I want to be healthier. I want to feel better. I want to, yeah, I want some of my aches and pains and issues to go away if possible. And so, now, if I lose weight, that's a great, and you said that at the beginning, that's a great little side bonus thing, but
Yep.
I went into it completely not thinking about losing weight. I was just
Okay.
thinking about feeling better.
Yeah. Sometimes it's easier, I think, to do it that way, especially if when you have that history of losing weight and gaining it back, then it takes some of the pressure off of
Right.
worrying about failing in the beginning. Um, yeah. So it seems like that. So that kind of taking that pressure off was what gave you the motivation to do it for health reasons then.
Yep. And then I told you, because it's a 12-week program, and I said I just have to ease into this.
Yes.
And you told me that, you just work with each client, however, whatever works best, if it
Yep.
takes a little more time to get through the 1 week of lessons and things you need to do, then it takes more than 1 week. And so I felt like I could go at the pace that I needed to go.
Yep.
And so there
Yeah.
wasn't that
And
pressure to get stuff done and do it right. I just felt like I could just ease, plus the program eases you into it anyway.
yeah.
So it wasn't just like doing everything day one within the program. Um,
I
so I
think it's
found that out
important.
quick enough too,
Yeah, important to highlight that also you started at the beginning of December, which for most people is like one of
Right.
the most difficult times of the year to try and start eating healthier. And so
Yep.
I don't know. I feel like what do you think gave you the motivation or the like confidence to be able to start it at the beginning of December when
Well,
holidays are coming up?
because the holidays were coming up, and it's an easy time to gain 5 or 10 pounds. I mean,
Yes.
um, it's easier for me to gain
Yeah.
5 or 10
I think
pounds.
for most people.
I mean, treats are everywhere
Yeah.
and parties are everywhere. And I love all of that. And I thought, well, if I could just kind of just, I think I started because I wanted to feel better
Yeah.
and if it could just get me a jump start on feeling better going into a busy time of year, that
Yeah.
was kind of a positive um,
And there's no
aspect
sense
of
in
it.
waiting. Like there's never, I
What?
feel like there's not a lot of sense in waiting then either, because there's never a great
Yeah.
time.
It's like once I decided, I thought, well, okay, here we go, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and I knew I was going to ease into it. And so if I needed to take a longer time to ease into it at the beginning because of the holidays, I was going to do that. But then, and I think I did kind of ease into it. But then, man, once the first of the year came, I was doing the weekly lessons,
Yeah. You
because
started,
because I said the program eases you into the program anyway. So you're not doing everything day one.
yes. So what are some of the first things that you noticed when you started Emerge that kind of stuck out to you or was maybe different than what you were used to doing in the past on diets?
Well, I was not a breakfast eater at all. I would drink my coffee,
Yeah.
and then 11:30, I'd be starving, but I just thought, I'm just not hungry, so I'm just not going to eat
Hmm.
breakfast. And that's one of the first things I did because of I can't remember what week it is, but it was incorporating breakfast. And I thought, oh, and then, the program wants you to eat vegetables in the morning. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I wasn't a vegetable eater either. So the
Yep.
two really important things. And so I started doing smoothies right away. And those things just filled me up. And they still do. I mean, because I'm getting a cup of vegetables every morning when I do a smoothie. And
It's amazing.
yeah, it is amazing. And it stays with me, with the
Mhm.
with fruit and protein powder and flaxseed and just things we add to it to beef it up and make it
Mhm.
really hearty.
Yeah.
Um, and so, I think that was kind of one of the first things that I noticed. I'm just like, it would be 1 o'clock and I just wasn't even hungry.
Yeah. So not
After
thinking about food as much.
maybe not, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing. That was a big change for me. That's those
Yeah.
breakfasts at first.
Yep. Yeah. That's amazing.
Hmm.
Um, I know that when you kind of alluded to the all or nothing mindset, and I know that's something that we've talked about a lot over the last few months. So, yeah, can you just talk a little bit more about that? Like, how is your mindset about eating healthy and losing weight different now than it has been in the past?
Well, um, somewhere along the line, we were talking about because you can give yourself permission to have an exception here and there. And and I grabbed onto that.
Of course.
and um and so all of a sudden it's not an all or nothing, right? If you're giving
Yeah.
yourself permission to have that dessert or that, amazing dressing or whatever it is,
Yeah.
that's not really clean eating.
Yep.
Um, and so we've talked about different things like 90-10, like 90% of the time eating for fuel and 10% of the time eating for joy.
Yeah.
Well, 10%, I mean, I went on vacation a couple weeks ago. We were gone for a couple weeks and I ate clean all day. And then at supper, I would let myself have those exceptions. And I came home and I was down a pound or two. So, I mean, it worked. And I didn't feel like I really missed out on much
Yeah.
as far as vacation food. And,
Yeah.
of course, I ate a lot of fish and I ate a lot of, but it was breaded. I mean, there were things about
Yep.
it that weren't perfect. And so, um,
Still lost weight.
and still lost weight. Yeah. And I really feel like I didn't really give up much. I mean, it was so worth it. And I could have gone if I was on one of those strict diets, I would have gone on vacation and eaten off and thought, okay, I blew it, so I might as well
Yep.
just keep blowing it.
Yes.
And then
Well,
the
and
other
then I
thing,
find most people come back from vacation and it takes like a week, 2 weeks to get back on track. And
yeah,
you were back on track. I mean, wasn't it your travel day home?
yep, I decided might as well. kind of like starting in the beginning of December.
Yep.
I thought I might as well, at least, you're flying and you're eating airport food and all that. So, you have to kind of figure out what you can do. But for the
Yeah.
most part, yeah, I started on my way home because I hadn't weighed myself. My clothes were fitting fine. Nothing felt tight. So I thought, okay, I'm doing pretty good, I think. Um, and I even waited a few days to step on the
Mhm.
scale when I got home because I didn't want to see the number. And then I was so pleasantly surprised. But
Yeah.
the other thing is somewhere along the line, we talked about the fact that because you can give yourself exceptions, it's impossible to fail
Yeah.
with this program. And I never felt that way before. Like, I mean, it's just impossible to fail because you're allowed to give yourself exceptions. And I
Yeah.
don't know, I needed that in my life, I guess. And I just didn't realize it. And I was just kind of an all or nothing. And
Yeah.
if
I
I
think
failed,
diets
then I
just,
failed the whole thing.
yeah, they cause us to be so hard on ourselves and so critical and judgmental, and every little thing is right or wrong. And yeah,
Right.
we just need a little bit more compassion on ourselves.
I think so. Oh yeah.
Right.
I spent a lot of my life beating myself up over
Yeah.
stuff like this. So,
Yeah. Has that changed in any way? Like the way you are talking to yourself about food or thinking about food or yourself or your body?
well, yeah, because I mean, I don't live for the 10% exception, but it's an awfully nice treat. But I find myself thinking, okay, what's today like?
Mm,
Okay, we're going to go out to eat tonight. Okay. So I want to really
mm,
be careful all day long and
yeah.
make sure I'm just putting the right things in my mouth so that if we're out to eat and I have to kind of find something that kind of works, but it's not
Right.
perfect, it's okay,
Um,
you know.
yeah.
So
Mm,
so I find myself planning ahead for that exception. The
yeah.
90% eating clean is I pretty much know what I can have, now. So I don't have
Yep.
to, it's not a lot of thinking. I always have things on hand for those kind of meals and snacks and lunches and
Mm,
smoothies. And so I know I always have stuff in my house
yep.
that
So
I
it's
can have.
become a little easier now.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So I usually save my exceptions for when we go out. And because we are empty nesters, we go out a lot. We
Yep.
meet friends you know, and we enjoy that. I mean, it's just a fun part of life and for
Yeah.
us, especially right now, because we go out more than we did when we were
Yep.
raising a family and um anyway.
Yeah, and
So
that's what I think with diets, when you feel like you have to like be all in and be perfect all the time, and then it does start to interfere with your social life and just, having fun and doing things. And there is a way to find more of a balance.
yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, so you've gradually changed how you ate. You've been eating clean for a while now. It's been almost not quite 6 months. Probably in
Yeah.
June, it'll be beginning of June, it'll be 6 months.
Right.
So, what are some of the just like the positive results or the things that you've noticed or have improved for you?
Well, several things. I'll start with how I feel.
Okay.
At the beginning of the program, there's a survey that you fill out and you rate how you feel. Like, I don't know what are the categories? Your sinuses and your joints and I mean, just everything
Yeah,
about you,
all
and you
kinds of
rate it.
physical health.
Yes, you rate the things 1 to 10. And of course, I filled it out like, okay, I'm going to fill it out on like it was my worst day. So I filled it out, and put pretty high numbers on things. Because if I had a headache, okay, how often do I have the headaches? If it's a couple times, so
Very
I just,
honest.
I was trying to be super honest, right? And so the number was like 147, and that probably means nothing, but anyway,
It's a higher
but
number.
by the end of the program, it was down to the 40s. It was like 42 or 43, something like that. So I could visually see, okay, my knee doesn't hurt anymore. Okay, I'm not having to blow my nose every morning until 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so things like that. And so obviously I felt better.
Mhm.
I do have some things that are going on with me that, I don't know. I know the clean eating helps
Yeah,
with inflammation and things like that. But so I'm not it's perfect, right? It's not
right.
perfect number.
Yeah,
At zero would be perfect. And it's not, I don't know if it'll ever be zero,
yeah,
but such a big improvement.
yeah,
Such a big improvement. And so, and when you're living with yourself day to day, you don't notice that, but then filling that thing out again, it was like, whoa, I had no idea those numbers were
yeah.
changing that much,
It's so fun to see all the random changes. Like you mentioned not blowing your nose as much in the morning. It's things like that that we don't usually pay attention to, but yeah, how we eat really affects so many things.
Yeah. And then I've lost 21 pounds.
Yay.
Yay. So it was kind of fun on vacation. I bought a size smaller and some things, and that
Yes.
was fun. It was like a
Yep.
little reward kind of a thing, and it felt good. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I have lost weight. And I just weigh myself once a week, and I'm just always kind of surprised. It's like, oh my goodness, like it's just because I don't count calories, I don't count carbs, I'm just eating clean. And so there's no, I mean, you get full, right? But
Yes.
there's no like, you don't feel like, oh, I have to cut it off here. Like if
Yes.
I'm hungry, I'll have whatever. I'll have another piece of fruit or I'll have a whatever. And so it is so nice not having to log all that stuff.
Yeah.
I know the program talks about keeping track, and I did at first, and I think it helped because I just I wanted to know like what I was putting into my body and how much was satisfying me and how much
Yes.
that didn't work so well or whatever. But
Yep.
now it's kind of become life. And so
Yeah.
for me, I'm not having to write everything down.
Yep.
Um,
There's a lot of
but I
freedom
was
that comes from that.
right. And so you're not, I mean, you're not obsessed with food then because you're
Yeah.
not, if you're not eating it, you're writing about it,
Yeah.
when you're logging things. And it's just so nice not to mess with that because
Yeah.
I've done that so many times, and
Do
it's
you
just nice
find
to have that
yourself
freedom.
thinking about food less? Because I know sometimes, whether
Yeah,
someone's dieting or struggling with their weight, they feel like they're constantly thinking about food or what they're going to eat or how much. And it's like this ongoing thing all day long. Has that changed for you at all?
it has changed. I think the only thing that I still have to say, you got to eat breakfast,
Mm,
so
yeah.
I wake up, I have my coffee, I have 1 cup of coffee a day, and I gotta eat breakfast, and I try to get it in before 8:30, and then
Okay.
I know I'm full till 1 usually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really good.
yeah. So, I would say that's the only thing I think about. It's usually like first thing in the morning.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's like, okay, I'm hungry. We learn in the
Yep.
program there's a way to kind of like it's called a hunger scale, and you kind of know when you're hungry and when when
Okay.
you're full. And you don't want to be stuffed, but you don't want to be like so hungry that you'll eat anything too. So um, um, I just kind of eat when I'm hungry,
Yep. And stop at
really.
the call.
Yeah. And so it's not like I have to eat lunch at 12. I have to have a snack at 3. I have to, it's not that nothing's a have to. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot of freedom in that, I think.
Yes. Yeah, that kind of brings up the point. It sounds like you feel like you've been able just to create this plan that works for you. It's not like structure like you have to eat this many times a day or you have to eat these certain foods or if you make an exception it can only be this. But it really
Right.
feels like you've just been able to create a lifestyle that
Right.
fits for
And
you.
I would say, you know, I've um I've been on so many diets, and I just know that it's just impossible to eat perfect. And what is that? That's such a
Yeah.
subjective word in itself, right?
Yep.
Because for me, giving myself exceptions is perfect. I mean, that's a perfect
Yes.
thing for me.
'Cause
And
that's part of
so,
your plan. So you're
yeah,
following your plan.
yeah.
Mm,
And it's not all about the exceptions, but it's awfully nice to have that.
yeah.
And it's a plan. It's like I give myself permission and I plan for it. So it
Yep.
doesn't feel like I'm cheating or I don't feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
I just
That's a
enjoy
big
it.
part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wanna be able to enjoy it, and you don't want you mentioned earlier how it's easy sometimes to let yourself eat something, and then you feel like you've blown the diet, and then you just kind of go off the deep end, and so, yeah,
Yeah.
it's great that you've learned how to enjoy your exceptions without the guilt.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you've been doing this almost 6 months now. Tell
Yep.
me a bit about yeah, like, how do you feel about continuing this? Does it feel hard, restrictive? Are you confident that you'll maintain it? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm taking it kind of like right now, I'm just thinking about this summer,
Yeah.
and I've kind of thought through we're not going to really go many places, maybe a couple long weekend things, but um, I'm going to be home most of the summer, and it would be nice to lose a little more. But if it comes off, it comes off. But I just need to keep doing what I'm doing
Yeah.
to keep those numbers of that survey low. I
Yeah.
I I am doing. I'm really basically trying to go through the program again on kind of on my own, kind of.
Yep.
And so I'm reviewing and so I filled out that survey
Oh,
um
good.
again, and I'm at the end of this month, so this week I'm gonna do that 6 week mark
Okay.
and fill it out again and fill that, and just see, are my numbers the same? Have they gone down anymore? Just so I can really see my progress as far as how I feel. Um yeah, so I really I don't know. I feel like I'm set for the summer, in so many ways. Like we
Yes.
went on vacation, so I bought some clothes that fit me, and so it's like I'm ready to go, and so
Yep.
it's like I feel good about the summer. I feel like my clothes fit me. I feel like
Mm,
um I don't know. I
yep.
feel my outlook on this summer is great.
That's
So I
amazing.
so I'm kind of taking it,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
like
know,
that. Just one
maybe a
little chunk of
season at a time. I don't
yeah.
know I don't know, maybe.
Yeah. I think that actually is really smart because things like our things change. It ebbs and flows throughout the year. And so to focus on, yeah, here's what I've got going on in the summer. Here's what I, need to look out for or plan for. And
Hmm.
yeah, take it one step at a time. Sometimes with
Hmm.
weight, I think we get so focused on the end goal. We need to lose 50 pounds or whatever. And it just
Hmm.
feels so big and daunting. And so breaking it down and just looking at
Yeah.
one thing at a time, I think is really helpful.
Yeah.
So you're
I
feeling
could
confident. Oh, go ahead.
I could just see myself doing that, survey. Uh, I could see myself doing that every 6 weeks all summer,
Yes.
just to
Yeah.
kind of see how I'm tracking.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you say is that what's motivating you to stick with it? Like seeing the progress on how you feel and all the like health things, is that's what motivates you to keep eating well? Or is it something else?
It's that and just feeling more confident um, in my clothes. In I know I have more energy.
Yeah.
When you're down 20 pounds, that's 20 pounds that you're
Yeah.
not lugging around,
It's a
and so
lot.
I feel better, like in a chair when I cross my legs, all those things, that it affects. And um, but yeah, I think, but seeing those numbers really, it's very encouraging to me. And maybe it's my age, maybe it's just because I do have some aches and pains and some things, that somebody my age would have.
Yeah.
Kind of almost everybody does that
Yeah.
I talk to. Um, and just, like just feeling the best I can feel right now.
Yes. Oh, I love that. You've just made so many changes and just been so consistent, no matter it's the holidays, it's vacation, whatever, you're just being consistent, not for forcing yourself to be perfect, and that's where
No,
it doesn't like you can't fail when you just keep
right,
doing work, keep in even doing it gradually, it gets you to where you want to go. It doesn't have to be jumping all in and making a
right,
hundred changes overnight.
right. I have made a lot of changes though. I
You
mean, I
have.
will say that, but it is nice to just feel like it's not like constantly on my mind and it's not like all I can think about because, an all or nothing person, which I tend to be in most things, you
Yep.
just get it in your head and until it's done, then it's just like, it can just
Yeah.
be, that's all you think about. Well, I don't
Yeah.
want to think about food all the time. I don't want to think about diaries and
Yeah.
I don't want to think about it because it's like then you think about the failure and that's all you can think about, is I
Yep.
failed. And it's just like, it's just all consuming. And it's just nice to not have that going rolling around in my head all the time.
Yep. Yeah, because you've got so many other things in life to focus on and to think about
Right.
and to do that yeah, no one wants to focus on this all the time.
Right.
So, okay, well, I guess maybe a couple of quick wrap up questions.
Sure.
Um, is there anything else that we didn't cover that you wanted to share?
Um, well, I think I can't remember if I shared this or not, but I really feel like I can do this. Like I can keep doing this.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's because it's not so restrictive and
Yep.
I feel like I've got a handle on um kind of what that 10% feels like in my life,
Yeah.
um, because, it would be easy to go down a road where, okay, 10% each time I eat. Well, that's not 10% of the day, or the week or whatever. So I think that's one thing I do think about, if I,
Mhm.
and again, though, I know our day, I know, okay, we're going to dinner. So I can say, I can make sure I have an exception that could happen during that meal.
Yeah.
So, so I would say, yeah, I would say, I think I can keep doing this. And so
And
that's
it's a different feeling
something.
than you've had before when you've lost weight?
hmm Yeah, before when I lost weight, I was on the scale too much.
Mhm.
Um, um, yeah,
Yeah.
or not on the scale at all because I just didn't want to.
Didn't want to face it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's a big difference
Yeah.
between other things and I could never not be all in. And so I would just give up eventually,
Yeah.
you know.
Uh,
So
I love hearing that you feel like this is just something you can stick with.
yeah,
That's
I think so.
a big deal.
Yeah. And I've decided for me, because I was done with the program in April, I decided for me to continue with you um, with a few of the things that the program offers, just not even really accountability. I wouldn't even call it accountability. I would just say just checking in, like
Mhm.
there's a weekly Zoom call with everybody that's on the program and hearing their stories and hearing their recipes and hearing their struggles and their successes is very encouraging to me. Um, and so I'm on a kind of a post emerge plan and so I still see you every week on that Zoom call and the others. And it's good because I think it's just a good reminder,
Yeah, it keeps it
just
top of mind and
hmm
helps stay focused. It's easy to get distracted in life by other
right,
things. And it's
right.
just nice to know you're not doing it alone, that yeah, there's
Yeah,
other people.
yeah. My husband's kind of following it too
Mhm.
and kind of eased into it. And
Yeah.
so we're kind of doing a lot of things together.
Yeah. And he didn't start right away, right? He started
Mm-mm.
easing into it more recently.
hmm
What
Yeah, I
was
think he
it that
saw,
got his attention and made him
well,
want
the weight loss,
okay.
um, the success there, I think, is a
Mhm.
biggie because I would tell him because I'm not telling everybody every week,
Yeah.
I lost a pound, I lost 2 pounds,
Yep.
but I would tell him and he's like, that's crazy, that I would just continue and not really count calories or not really, he's with me when we're
Yep.
out to eat, and he's with me, you know,
Sees you
but
still
he
enjoying
started
and
eating
interested.
smoothies. You know, he's a big breakfast eater, so he already had his breakfast, and it's a good breakfast.
Mhm.
It's eggs and meat, and a lot of times he'll do peppers with his eggs and fruit, and it's a really good breakfast that he eats. But he's been trying, like, for lunches to do a smoothie that gets
Okay.
him through the afternoon, and that's helped him.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
um
That's what I
yeah.
love when we do this for ourselves and we can start, yeah, just impacting our loved ones around us too.
Well, yeah, because even when at the beginning of the program, you're not doing everything just like the program wants you to do by the end at the beginning. And
Yeah.
um but every little thing, I mean, even if you're eating clean for one meal a day, that's better than what you were doing.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
right.
Yep. And it's a great way because there's even, people in the program that have kids and it's not like this isn't something that's just for the dieter, but it's a way of eating that's healthy for everyone. I
Right.
mean, anyone in a family can do.
Right. It's good food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you enjoyed the food that you're eating?
Yeah, I have my go-tos.
Good.
But for the most part, I think getting all those vegetables in is will probably always be a little bit of a challenge for me.
Yeah.
Some days I do better than other days, but
Yep.
again, I'm doing it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ah, well, okay. So my last question then is like, what would you say to somebody who is in your shoes, who's, I don't know, maybe a little doubtful about trying one more thing or doubtful about like even having to put the effort into getting started on improving their health or losing weight? What advice or words of encouragement would you have?
Well, I guess I would just say that I went into it wanting to feel better, and I do. I just feel better. I mean, I I just feel so much better. I don't have knee pain like I did, and I'm not having headaches like I did, um, and so I would say that, and then I would say that the the little side bonus of losing weight has been good.
Yep.
It's been good in a lot of ways. So, um, and I think it's worth trying because I would guess most people when they're on a diet, once they cheat, then they're off.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so it's hard. I mean, there are normal people in the world that just eat the correct amount of
I
food.
feel like it's a very small percentage of
Yeah,
people.
it seems so. But I think most people that are trying to keep their weight where it's at, or lose. It's just so easy to be on that roller coaster. And I don't feel like I'm on a roller coaster right now. So
Yeah, and it sounds like you haven't felt like you were off ever, like you
no.
had more exceptions on vacation, but you
Yep.
still did well. Like you just
Yeah, I think it's
stuck with it.
impossible to fail at this with this program. It's just
Yeah.
impossible to fail. Um, it's not because you're not, so you have a day that it looks more like 80/20, but it's better than eating, everything that's
Yep.
not good for you, right? The
Yep.
whole day.
Yeah.
And usually when I would go off a diet, that's what that would look like. It's like all the things.
Yeah.
So even
That's good
even
advice.
that is better than even one meal a day clean is better than what I was doing. And so I think it's
Yeah. And it's a snowball effect. Once you start eating one meal clean, then it feels a little bit easier, more exciting to do two. And then you
right.
do three. And then people start having more energy and want to go for walks at night or exercise. It's just like one thing
Yeah.
leads to another, I think.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
well, thank you so much for
Well, you're
sharing all of
welcome.
this with everyone. It's been so fun to talk with you, and I'm hoping encouraging to everyone watching. For anyone watching who's just kind of intrigued to learn a little bit more about this approach and the Emerge Weight Loss Program, the next step would be to book a complimentary call so we can talk just a little bit more about your situation and what your goals are and figure out if it'd work for you or not. So I'll put a link in the comments if you'd like to book a call with me. So you can go ahead and do that. And yeah, thanks everybody for watching. Thank you, Margie, for being here and just being willing to share your story. I think sometimes too, it's not always easy to be open and vulnerable about some of the weight loss journey. So I appreciate your willingness to do
You're
that.
welcome.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Bye bye.